This is Arkies in the Beltway, your look at national politics and the Arkansans influencing the discussions. I'm Alex Thomas, Washington correspondent for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, reporting from the nation's capital. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Arkies in the Beltway for the week of July 27th, 2025. The U.S. House of Representatives getting an early start to its August recess. Lawmakers held their last votes for July last Wednesday, leaving Capitol Hill and the Senate behind for their annual break. The House was not scheduled to be in the nation's capital this week, but the decision to begin the August recess early came amid questions about President Donald Trump and his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Lawmakers from both parties want more documents about Epstein and his incidents of sexual abuse, and those documents to be made public. Representative Steve Womack of Rogers says questions about Epstein brought the House to a standstill.
The House is haunted, and we do have the ghost of Jeffrey Epstein flying around here, and that's kind of paralyzed things. We're up against some pretty incredible headwinds right now, trying to get our work done.
Epstein died in 2019, killing himself in a New York City jail. House Speaker Mike Johnson wants the White House to act on its own and not be pressured by Congress into releasing information about Epstein. The House Oversight Committee voted last Wednesday to subpoena former Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell. A House Oversight Subcommittee voted to subpoena the Justice Department for files regarding Epstein and the related investigation. The Senate remains in town until the end of this week, senators, like their House counterparts, making some progress on Congress's annual appropriations bills. The chamber voted last Wednesday to advance the House's spending measure addressing military construction and Veterans Affairs. Senator John Bozeman of Rogers is a senior Senate appropriator. He leads the Appropriations Subcommittee handling funding as it relates to military construction and veterans issues.
This bill takes into consideration the needs of our veterans, their families, and our service members, and within that framework we have created a thoughtful path forward for both departments and our related agencies.
Washington State Senator Patty Murray is the top Democrat on the Senate Appropriations Committee. She acknowledges this year's appropriations process is challenging, citing the recent rescissions package and Trump's executive actions over the first months of his second term.
But we cannot afford another slush fund full-year CR, and we cannot accept the draconian cuts being pushed by Trump and House Republicans. So we do need to chart a different path forward and pass full-year bipartisan spending bills that invest in folks back home and make sure Congress and our constituents have a say in federal spending.
The Senate and House approved a continuing resolution in March to fund the government through September. Continuing resolutions largely maintain funding levels with little room for changes. Womack, a senior House appropriator, says he would get better odds on Congress allowing a government shutdown in the fall than he would have in years past.
It's like Groundhog Day. Over and over again, we blow the process up and we end up having to fund the government through a continuing resolution or an omnibus package or risk a government shutdown.
The Senate and House will not return from their August breaks until September 2nd, the final day of the federal government's fiscal year, September 30th. Representative Bruce Westerman has introduced legislation with the goal of achieving permitting reform. The SPEED Act aims to streamline the permitting process for energy and public projects, in part by cutting timelines. Westerman of Hot Springs led a House Natural Resources Committee hearing last Tuesday regarding permitting, as well as issues with the National Environmental Policy Act. The 1970 law, also known as NEPA, mandates reviews about a project's potential environmental impact. Westerman, the committee's chair, says NEPA has become a roadblock for completing projects.
NEPA reviews have become limitless and excruciating exercises requiring agencies to amass behemoth environmental treaties, which increase project costs and create delays for projects ranging from transportation and infrastructure to forestry, conservation, and energy development.
Joe Biden signed legislation in 2023 which limited the scope of NEPA's environmental impact statements and streamlined related studies. But Westerman says more needs to be done.
We have discussed previously energy demand is skyrocketing and the AI arms race is underway. If we want to ensure a future where America remains a beacon of liberty and freedom, we must reform our permitting processes to bolster energy and national security and enhance American economic competitiveness.
Maine Democrat Jared Golden joined Westerman in introducing the legislation, but getting further support from Democrats may be a challenge. California Democrat Jared Huffman doubts his Republican colleagues are serious about permitting reform, pointing out the Department of the Interior recently expanded its scrutiny of wind and solar energy projects.
This is not leveling the playing field. It is adding red tape to sideline the cheapest, quickest, and cleanest sources of electricity that can power our economy.
Senators in the last Congress discussed a bipartisan permitting measure, but neither chamber voted on that legislation. Senator Tom Cotton putting forward measures addressing issues affecting families, including infant care. The senator introduced bills to ban heavy metals in baby formula and require hospitals to provide parents with information regarding life-saving health care for newborns. Cotton of Little Rock ties these bills to his own experiences. He and his wife Anna have elementary school-age sons. He adds he has friends in Arkansas dealing with the challenges of parenthood and early child care.
We still understand a lot of the hopes and aspirations, but also the stresses and concerns that young and expecting parents have.
The senator also reintroduced legislation that would allow women and their spouses to take unpaid leave in the event of a miscarriage or stillbirth. The bill would also lead to a new tax credit for mothers and couples who experience a stillbirth. Cotton says the measure would provide people with resources to ease the recovery process.
When you have that tragedy, the last thing you need is to be worried about covering those expenses or whether or not you're going to have to go back to work because you lost your child.
Arkansas allows parents of stillborn children to seek a $500 income tax credit. Cotton says his bill has similar language to Arkansas statute known as Paisley's Law. Another Arkansan receiving the Senate's blessing, senators voted 51-46 on Tuesday to confirm Aaron Lucas as the new principal deputy director of National Intelligence. Representative Rick Crawford of Jonesboro introduced Lucas to the Senate Intelligence Committee back in April, making special note of Lucas's Arkansas ties.
Aaron grew up in Jacksonville, Arkansas, where his family moved before his first birthday. He attended school right there next to Little Rock Air Force Base, which likely influenced his interest in serving his nation on the front lines of our national security challenges.
Senator Cotton leads the Senate Intelligence Committee. Crawford serves as the House Intelligence Committee chair. Lucas is not the first Arkansan to have their nomination approved by this Senate. Senators earlier this year confirmed former Governor Mike Huckabee as the ambassador to Israel and investment banker Warren Stevens as the ambassador to the United Kingdom. And that'll do it for this edition of Arkies in the Beltway for the week of July 27th, 2025. You can stay up to date with all news involving Arkansas at arkansasonline.com. Special thanks as always to the team down in Little Rock. I'm Alex Thomas, and this has been Arkies in the Beltway. Thanks for listening.